Welcome back to the Optional Boss Podcast. We are your hosts, Josh and Tyler, and this is episode 22, where we are talking Rareware in the 90s, or thereabouts anyways. I'm sure we're going to touch on some late 80s, obviously, and some early 2000s. But with that said, Tyler, how are you?
We are from the 90s, and we focus on the 90s specifically. The greatest era that I can speak to no specifics of. That's pretty much, but we're just waxing nostalgic because we're old. I'm pretty swell. Yes. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing pretty good.
That's good.
It's been some good weather. Ready to talk some Rare games because Rare in the 90s is their better times.
I like Rare games. I like games that are hard to find. I like games that are easy to play.
Not to discredit Sea of Thieves, because I know it has its fan base, but the early Rareware games, that's where it's at.
They're pretty iconic household name at the time.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the partnership that they had with Nintendo in 94, till they got bought out by Microsoft, I think.
Oh, we're skipping ahead to the Dark Die. What you been playing?
The Rise and Fall, and what have I been playing? So, you know how I was playing Diablo 4?
Yes.
I've already played tons of Diablo 3. I went into Diablo 2, and now I'm playing Diablo 1 with the Beelzebub HD mod. So it adds in all the cut content that was still found in the game files and everything. So that's been a lot of fun. And just before we hopped on today, I just got to level 16, which, if anyone doesn't know, in Diablo 1, that is the final level before the Realm of Terror.
Oh, you meant floor 16. I thought you meant, like, your character level 16.
No, floor 16.
Ah.
So, I think I'm 26 or something. I'm using the Sorcerer this time, which I've never done. I've always gone Warrior. And holy shit, this playthrough has just been laughable.
Just easy mode with magic.
It is. It really is. I couldn't believe it, because I remember always struggling the further on you get down, of course. That's how games work. But there was always a point when I'd just get, I'd start getting to the late caverns and just get annihilated. And with magic, I'm just like, ha, bzz, ha, bzz.
I do want to try Diablo 1 sometime in the not too distant future, because I do have a decent degree of nostalgia for it, mostly for the fact that I've had lots of experience with roguelike games, and it's hard to say that Diablo is a roguelike. It has a lot of the same trappings, but I very specifically remember, because it wasn't a game that I had, it was a go to a buddy's house and play kind of game, and so would usually have to start from square one each time. So the first time going through, I would have got the Butcher, I guess, as the boss.
Yep.
And then the second time through, I didn't actually get the Butcher quest, but I had the
Poison Well.
Yes. And that was just fascinating to me, the fact that the game can change.
Yes. Now, admittedly, because the Beelzebub HD mod adds in all the cut content, you actually get both those quests in the same game.
I mean, that still sounds pretty cool, but all the same, I like Diablo 1 is really what the summary comes to, especially given my apprehensions.
Slow.
Oh,
it sounds weird, because I find I'm enjoying it. I've always enjoyed it, but I'm enjoying it because of how slow and methodical it is.
That's the thing that concerns me with the new ones.
Run and break everything.
The new ones become almost like twin stick shooter levels of craziness happening on the screen, right? As where in the original Diablo, you have 3 enemies that come on screen at you, and you're like, oh no.
Not so much as Magic, but yes.
Well, okay. I also really only played, I think I tried Ranger for a little bit, but Warrior had a sword, and that's just cooler in my mind. It still is to this day.
Very much.
Yeah, but
no, I figured I'd try something magic-based, and it's overpowered, I can say that. Granted, I've still died, but because you're squishy as hell, but you send out Chain Lightning in a group of enemies, like elites, and they just melt.
That would be an enjoyable power trip.
So yeah, I beat Diablo 2 with the expansion. I did the Diablo 2 Resurrected, and now I'm almost done Diablo 1. I did do a bit more in the difficult side, difficulties climb, but Diablo 4 Season 1 started yesterday as of time recording. So I also hopped on that with a couple of friends, Sam and Dave. So, and aside from that, I did actually start something that I'm getting a lot more pleasure out of this time around, and I think it's just the situation that I'm actually playing it in. The Nintendo Switch Online Game Boy Advance, and it's the Metroid Fusion.
Oh, nice. I really like Fusion. It was probably my first proper Metroid game, actually sitting through and finishing beginning to end. And I know...
What do you consider proper? Like one of the 5 storyline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I know it's kind of like the black sheep of the main Metroid. It's a lot more linear and all that, but the fact that Nintendo had pulled off some genuinely good survival horror on the Game Boy Advance, it's a gorgeous looking game, and Metroid Fusion is... oh, no. See, I would like to say, I can't say it's my favorite, but then I can't think of what my favorite is, because Super is a masterpiece, but Dread, holy... So
they're both really good. I mean, it's 1A to the 1B, right?
Yeah. So
to the 1C, they're all pretty good. 2, I've played a bit of the Game Boy version of it, the original, if you will. Not very much the... Was it 3DS? Samus Returns remake?
Yeah.
I haven't really played much of that, but I have played AM2R. And from my understanding, it follows the exact same story. Actually, I know it does based on video essays, but AM2R follows the same story beats as Metroid 2. It is a pretty faithful remake.
Story beats being kill them all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
gotta kill the rest of the Metroids. Oh, baby Metroid.
Deep enriching lore. Yes. No, yes. I think Metroid Dread Fusion is a fine time, and if I'm not mistaken, we're also at some point supposed to be getting Zero Mission on the Switch Online service, and
I thought so. Yeah,
Zero Mission is a good time. It's just Metroid 1 made into Super Metroid. Basically, it plays really nicely. It also has some additional content. Almost like a soft reboot / remake of the first Metroid, and yeah, I'm very excited to give that one a go because I haven't played it in a long time.
Now, have you ever beat the original Metroid?
The original? No, but
the NES.
I have played it. It was actually, funny enough, on the note of Zero Mission. I don't know if it was like 100% completion or if it was just a get the true ending, and that wasn't something that was required from, because mostly in Metroid games you have to have the fast time to beat it to get the better finishing title cards and stuff. I think there was actually item requirements or something. I can't entirely remember, but all the same, there was an unlockable, and you would just get Metroid 1 for NES in its entirety on Zero Mission, which
I thought so, yeah.
Is really cool and also almost insulting to the standalone Metroid 1 classic cartridge on Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a $20 game or a hidden unlockable. And don't get me wrong, I think the classic NES games on Game Boy Advance are really cool. I actually don't think I own any, which is quite surprising. But yeah, that kind of spits in the face of the whole concept, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I'm trying to think now. Yeah, so the original NES Metroid, I actually do really enjoy. I have issues with it, but I also think that with NES games, everyone has that one that we all know hasn't aged well, but we still have the appreciation for it.
What do you mean? Balloon Fight aged like wine.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. I know I've brought this game up to you a couple times, and I've been meaning to play it since. It's the one where you're going up the tower, and it's got this fake 3D effect I can never remember the name of it. I know it's not Tricky Towers, but I don't think it's a good game. And yet it is a game that I think is great.
Marble Madness.
Hey, that's on our list today, isn't it?
It kind of is.
Oh.
Now, it was a port, but... anyways, what have you been playing?
I have been... So, as we last left off, to my recollection, I was putting in some decent time into Returnal, which was a fantastic game, but it's also a roguelike, which means I don't feel bad stepping away from it for a bit, because it's just going to be an interesting random take every time. And I'm still...
I did that once, and I still haven't gone back.
Oh, I intend to go back, but the reason I have strayed away was because I kept looking at that copy of Elden Ring that I have, and it was just like, come on, just try it. You might like it. And so I booted that up, and it wasn't wrong. I did like it. However, when I stepped out into that vast open world, and having just beaten Zelda, I kind of got overwhelmed. And I thought, I want this, but I don't want it like this. So I got Demon Souls.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I am actually really... Because there's something about the Souls games, once you start getting into them, they are almost a drug.
Very much so. It's once you get that first couple hours in, a boss down, and like a proper boss, or get to a boss and you're struggling there, it's almost like that adrenaline rush is like, okay, I gotta continue. I gotta see this through.
It's very much a once you know kind of gameplay style. And
well, yeah. There's been friends that I've tried explaining it to, the whole Souls formula. It's like, okay, so they're difficult games and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, like they're kind of notorious for that fact, and then you don't actually understand what that means and why it's fun till you start doing it yourself.
The difficulty... this topic's been beaten to death. It might even become a topic we cover in the future, but it's very much the, not doing something that's hard, but doing something better because you understand it more. It's very much the philosophy of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And
pretty much.
When you kind of... Something is so incredibly satisfying about methodically going through an area for the first couple times, getting killed, slowly creeping by, trying to take on each enemy as carefully as possible, and then you come back to it later and you are just waltzing through, swinging a sword about because things are just falling around you.
Unless you follow my philosophy on the games, in which that means, hello demon, you're a pancake.
I also like to put things in the ground with a large, heavy slab of something. It is a very satisfying... That was my Bloodborne approach. I really liked the Kirk hammer in that game. And
it is really good.
Yeah, I have been making some good progress in Demon Souls and having a fantastic time with that. It is just beautiful. Oh my god, Blue Point, do more of this. This was great. And
I will fully admit that anything that Blue Point seems to remake looks really good. They have graphics and imitation down.
Oh,
really good.
Just the detail to everything. And this is the kind of game that certainly benefits from it. Now, my personal thoughts on it are I still like Dark Souls 1 more, just as a game as a whole. But I don't think that detracts it from it at all, because I kind of think that's the point of Dark Souls. It was supposed to be the newer, better game that the creator had made. This is just still a good game.
It's learning from every experience, trying to one-up yourself, if you will.
Yeah, but I also like how drastically different they are. The fact that Demon Souls has almost like a level structure, as where Dark Souls has that big explorable world that's all cohesive. Like, that's the thing that makes me love Dark Souls. But I like that it's not just the same in Demon Souls either.
Yeah, and admittedly, like, you're going to be getting into Dark Souls 3, I assume, at some point.
I would love to, yes.
It doesn't have that openness like number 1 does, but it's not closed off like Demon Souls.
Ooh. No, I am very excited to try out 3 on my Souls journey. I think Elden Ring will probably be the one I tackle after Demon Souls. I know it's not FromSoft, but I am highly anticipating Lies of P. So that playstyle can't be beat. On the flip side to that, though, I started something just a few hours before we hopped on. Just kind of feeling something to like plunk away at on the Switch Lite. And not too long ago, I picked up a copy of a game called Moonscar, I think.
Okay.
Is what it's called. And it's, upon first look, it looks a lot like it's trying to be blasphemous, which isn't a bad thing in my mind. It's going to be hard to...
Not terrible.
I know something is not going to reach the heights of something like that in my fondness, especially, the highly anticipated sequel to Blasphemous around the corner. But it still kind of speaks to me. It's that Metroidvania that kind of wants to do that Souls-ish kind of thing, sort of. This one definitely takes a lot of inspiration from the Souls franchise when it comes to the shortcuts and... I don't know what they call it. It's like bone dust or something. It follows a lot of the same trappings as Dark Souls. My only complaint so far is it's not really very hard. In fact, it makes you almost stupidly OP. And I don't know, like, platformers and Metrovanias are kind of my bread and butter, but at the same time, like, I'm kind of just waiting for the game to throw me a challenge, and it has yet to. I don't know. It's not bad, though.
Could just be one of those, like... lets you overthink it, then halfway through you're getting your ass handed to you.
It could very much ramp up.
It very much could be that.
Like
a bait and switch almost.
I've only put in maybe about an hour and a half. I don't even know if I've reached a proper boss yet, to be honest. But it has my attention at the very least. It's not going to be a priority, just something I had sitting on the shelf. And I was like, I should at least check this out. And I feel like if I had to give a preemptive prediction to my comparative rating, not to compare the game to one another, but like my level of enjoyment, I would probably say it's going to end up being around how much I enjoyed, we did it on a Mindy's, Death's Gambit.
Right.
Yeah, I liked it, but I'm not gonna rush to play it again. But we'll see. If I get to the end of it, who knows? Maybe I might have different thoughts on it. But that would be pretty much what I've only had the chance to play recently.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So, I guess with that said, how much do you play Rare games?
Probably more than I suspect.
Rareware.
Yeah,
probably.
So I'm going to be pretty straightforward about the fact that we are just looking at a list and going, hey, that sounds familiar. At least I am. And they did a lot. Like, they did way more.
They certainly did. And you know what? I'm a little surprised by that, because I thought you, being the man of all wisdom, would actually have me one-upped on this. But I actually know a good chunk of these.
I know them, but I wouldn't have known them as Rare games. That's where it gets a little bit... Okay, so when you think Rareware, what are the first couple games that come to mind? For myself, it's clearly, you've got Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Country specifically, you've got Banjo Kazooie, you've got Killer Instinct.
Yep.
Like, these are like, you think of them as they didn't come out with much, but the ones that they came out with had a really big impact, right?
Exactly. And they kind of made their staple games when they were under funding from Nintendo, which didn't actually happen until about 94.
I think so far on our lovely little series we have created here that I think we've only ever talked about one Rare game before. And to my knowledge anyway, and it doesn't actually come up on this list because it's prior to the 90's, and it's Dead Ass.
Yeah. Slalom.
Yes. Yeah, which is another game that I had never heard of and would have not guessed that it was by Rare. And just upon gameplay, I was like, okay, this has some quality. I'm not surprised it was those guys.
And that was actually one of the black box games. That was one of the last black box games that we actually talked about.
Yep, and it was a very impressive looking game.
One I was very surprised of is Wizards and Warriors. Like, I know it's not an expensive game or an actual, like, rare as in rarity game, but I was a little surprised to see that was actually them, because I have that on my shelf right now.
Wizards and Warriors is a very perplexing game, because a game with a title like that, you would think that you are getting yourself into some kind of RPG, potentially a very classic one, and it's a platformer, and a very, like, high vertical platformer as well. It's so weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, let's be honest, one thing that Rare was really good at in this era was platformers. I think that kind of goes without saying. And once we actually start getting into like a list of the stuff, at least notable stuff, yeah, you're going to see what I mean by that. Like they have a lot of platforming experience.
Well, and not only that, you would have Nintendo, what you could consider like more of the progenitor of your modern platformers, be them 2D or 3D, and then Rare would come in with a finely polished version that they have created. It's interesting that almost every genre that they entered at this point in time, they kind of were the gold standard of that genre for whatever they released. And if I'm going to there's two examples that I will give for this. There would have been Killer Instinct, which came out of nowhere and just dominated the world of fighting games. It did so much unique stuff. It's a shame that it's kind of a dormant franchise. And then you would have GoldenEye. And, you had first-person shooters on consoles before, but GoldenEye was just... Now, I don't like playing it now, that's for sure, but I'm not about to deny that it has got its legacy for a reason.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just took a quick look. Yeah, the last Killer Instinct that they came out with was 2013.
Yeah, and that was a free-to-play game, kind of.
Yes.
A very interesting structure for that one. The world's landscape of
your
gaming.
Standard free-to-play games, right?
It has vastly changed, but I feel like we're going to go down this list and we're going to go, wow, really? They made that?
Yeah. It's anyone who grew up in this era and knows the name Rareware, or Rare as we've always called it, and now they call it themselves.
Yeah.
Is going to be like, oh yeah, we know that. Wait, they made that. They're all going to have the same kind of expression when they hear some of these.
I think that's why, I'm going to mention the publishers of a lot of these games too, because these are going to be your hidden rare games.
Yes. So I guess just a little bit of where they came from. They started in '85 developing for the ZX Spectrum.
What is that? I know what it is, but also what?
It's a home computer. It's like a Commodore.
Ah,
you can almost think.
Gotcha.
So, and actually some of their original games were just ZX Spectrum based, and then they moved on to doing some for Commodore as well.
Now, I don't know.
That's very clearly early.
I don't know if you would know Rare. This, because Rare, if I'm not mistaken, they are based out of Europe, are they not?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know if the ZX Spectrum was more popular over there by chance?
I think it was.
Kind of like how Sega took off a lot more over there than over here was more Nintendo?
Yep.
Interesting. The fractured timeline.
Yeah, it was... Okay, so just looking at this thing right here, it's... the best-selling microcomputer in Britain.
Oh, well, okay. That very specifically answers that question then.
Yep.
All right.
So, and couple of... they did a lot of ports, too, of arcade games. And I'm just going to zip through these very, very quickly. This is just leading into the 90s. Marble Madness, I mentioned.
Yep.
It's a 3D Marble one. That was a port from arcades. Sports game, World Games. It was originally developed by Epix for the Commodore 64, and they did the port to NES. California Games, again, another mix of sports games. And, of course, I'm going to have to put this one in. Jordan versus Bird 1-on-1 for basketball. In 88 it came out, but they did the port to NES come 89.
You know what an interesting comparison to... Because it sounds like... And a lot of game developers do this, where they'll pick up a lot of these kind of smaller port or licensed kind of jobs. And...
Yep.
They're using it to stay relevant in the game industry while they're also working on their own titles in the background. And more relevant today company that comes to mind that still kind of really follows this practice would be WayForward.
Yeah.
And they've been doing
Absolutely.
that for a long time, but they'll still take on the odd license game. The only thing that's different is there's a lot more attention towards game developers now, right? As opposed to,
yes,
a lot of things we're going to see on this list. These are Rare games, but no one knew it was Rare. And WayForward's been doing something very similar. They, one of their earliest titles was a WWF game for the Game Boy Color. Like, sometimes these smaller developers, they'll pick up these odd jobs, and then you're going to think, oh, no, they don't really make very good games. Well, I'm like, yeah, they just kind of fulfill contracts, actually. You can see where the passion is not there.
And in the end, like, it is a business, and where they have passion, you're going to see that passion. Actually, interestingly enough, because I've been playing Diablo 1, there's a GDC talk with David Brevik, who's the creator of Diablo.
Yeah.
And he kind of goes behind the scenes on how it came to fruition, what it was actually going to be, like the fact that it was going to be claymation. And it was turn-based with card packs, and you bought more cards and inputted the codes from the physical cards to make different kinds of moves throughout a dungeon, and it was going to be all turn-based.
Oh, that sounds cool.
But he mentions how he was able to bring that to Blizzard and how he met those guys, and it was essentially because they were working on a side contract for their company while they were making their main game, and they pretty much developed the exact same game. So he pitched his idea to them, who were just starting off with Blizzard, and
Origins. Comfortable origins. What do you?
So,
do you think we should
starting in the 90s?
Yeah, let's dive into it. We have well, okay. How do you want to tackle this? Do you want to swap year by year?
Sure.
All right.
I'll do the 90s.
All right. The 90.
So 90. Yes. 90, not 90s. We're doing
The specific year, it was 1990. The air was
So we're starting off with Wizards and Warriors X, The Fortress of Fear on Game Boy, published by Acclaim. Now, you're the Game Boy guy. Have you seen this one?
I have seen gameplay of it, and it seems to be a much more straightforward platformer than the NES Wizards and Warriors. It's still very much like, you have your janky, super vertical jumps and all that, but it seems like they're more standard horizontal level structure. I think it still follows the same kind of vein, and again, not really having played Wizards and Warriors, I'd play this.
Yeah. The only criticism I have on it is it looks... Now, I'm saying this, understanding that it's on the Game Boy. It looks very undetailed and uninspired.
It's a very bland-looking visual game, yes, very much so. But we'll circle back around to this, because that can actually end up being a detriment in the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair enough. Next game show, Wheel of Fortune Family Edition. So this was on the NES, and just to mix it in, Double Dare, which was also a game show, ported to a... Sorry, Double Dare was actually a port.
So I didn't know what Double Dare was until I actually looked into this. I guess it was like a Nickelodeon game show?
Yeah.
Did you ever see this show before? Because I can't say I ever have.
I have. Do I remember much of it? No, because that was way back when.
Interesting.
Oh, so Double Dare was actually a port. It was from the IBM PC and Commodore 64.
Thrilling console, the IBM.
So next one being pinball. Like, okay, so some of these early on ones aren't going to be anything to really put much detail in.
Yeah.
It's the big names that I know were, yeah. So it's a pinball game called Pinbot.
Yeah, that's it.
It's pinball.
It's pinball.
Iron Man Stewart's Super Off the Road. It's a racing game.
The worst kind of racing game, because it's just one of those, you look at the static track, it's like slot cars.
Yes.
Yeah, with the overhead view.
It's actually a port as well of an arcade game.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And they're not really doing much original stuff in 1990 itself.
Well, this is pretty original. Jeopardy! 25th Anniversary Edition. Another game show. They did a lot of game shows.
So original, they did it 25 times.
Jeopardy! We know Jeopardy! Cable?
Cabal. I don't think I know this one.
This is a port of an arcade shooter. Over the top shooter, anyways.
This kind of looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad, and so I haven't been saying the people, but this was Cabal was actually Milton Bradley. So
it actually kind of looks like Wild Guns on the Super Nintendo. How like you're kind of stationary and you can kind of shoot around you, and it's not over the shoulder, but like almost kind of like that for what was possible in that era, anyway.
Yep.
Interesting.
Next one, which was also Milton Bradley, is Captain Skyhawk. It's a scrolling shooter. Pretty much to shoot 'em up.
I don't recall the era of Milton Bradley making video games.
No, they did some publishing.
So weird.
Do we have any other ones? Jordan versus Bird 1-on-1 was Milton Bradley. California game, of course, all the sports ones.
I think it's
no, Marble Madness.
I think this was under the era of video games being understood as marketing for toys, and that's why Milton Bradley kind of threw their hat in the ring, right? Because I don't think you don't hear about games published by them anymore. That's for sure.
No, and if you think back, if you look on the bottom of a NES, at least in America, it is built by Mattel.
Wacky.
Yeah.
Barbie and Nintendo having something in common. Relevancy, because the movie came out. Moving on.
Yes. So those were all on the NES, aside from Wizards and Warrior X. Next one is on the Game Boy, which is The Amazing Spider-Man. This is an LJN title.
And this is actually like... It's hard to say worst Game Boy game because there's a lot of like very shovelware-esque Game Boy games, but this game is notoriously bad. Like one of the worst Spider-Man games ever made.
Assume that if it has an LJN title or published, they were desperate for money.
Yeah.
As bad as that may be to say, but
hey, you gotta get work.
Next up, Snake Rattle and Roll.
Okay, so do you know anything about this game?
This is one I don't actually know.
Okay, so I don't have this one. There is one of a different title that we'll come up with later on as a Game Boy version of this, but it is basically classic Snake, eat the apples, get bigger snake, or at least I always thought they were apples. But instead of it being just top down, the whole goal is you're trying not to hit your tail. This one is that same concept, but on a pseudo 3D kind of plane. Think Q*bert.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so it's like Q*bert and Centipede had a baby.
Kind of. And then I think the goal is you're supposed to try to make your snake as big as you can, and then you reach the goal, and then I think the goal weighs you, and that determines your points, and if you are able to progress on the next level. It's actually kind of neat.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Like, it's going to sound stupid, but like I can always find a bit of entertainment in those Centipede games.
Oh, just the simplicity of it all, and the fact that it's got a unique spin on it. But that said, I'm speaking towards the Game Boy version of this, and it has a different title, but I'm pretty sure... Yeah, this looks relatively like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, Snake Rattle and Roll. Yeah. That was actually a Nintendo published one.
Yep.
Next up is a arcade run and gun called Narc. It was a port from an arcade. Sorry. Time Lord, which is Milton Bradley as again side-scrolling action platformer.
Wait, I have to mention something about Narc.
Okay.
So Narc is very much a game of that arcade era where arcade games had to be like firmly stamped with that "don't do drugs, kid" kind of stuff. And all you do in Narc is you're a cop going around shooting drug dealers.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. All right.
That's very much of the era.
Yeah. So that Time Lord, what's that?
It's a side-scrolling action platformer game.
One that probably just kind of got lost at the shuffle of the many, because you're kind of getting you're in the NES's twilight at this point, right? People have their games.
Yeah, it's so this. Have you seen the box art for this?
For Solar Jetman?
Time Lord.
Oh my, that's. So
I don't know anything on this game, admittedly, aside from its side-scrolling action platformer.
There's a horse in space.
There's a horse and a dragon and a knight who, instead of like a knight in Shining Armor's helmet. He's hanging onto his space helmet.
Honestly, I feel like if done right, that could be really cool. But this is not that situation.
Oh, I don't think it will be.
It has the same kind of art style as like cheesy romance novels. That's hilarious.
Oh God, yeah, it does. It has almost that DOS effect where they have like red skin.
Oh no, that actually though, like Time Lord is something I kind of want to look into just because it's just I like old retro platformers, so it might be worth checking out.
And that box art just makes me so happy.
Hey, Mega Man was good. Look at its box art. Maybe Time Lord's a hidden gem.
Right? It was Rare.
Mm-hmm.
Although Rare hasn't really hit its stride at this point.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they did Spider-Man for the Game Boy, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, the amazing...
And they got in bed with LJN a few other times, but Solar Jetman, Hunt for the Golden Warship, multi-directional shooter game.
This kind of looks like Lunar Lander, and if it is anything like Lunar Lander, I'm down. Lunar Lander's a good time.
Yeah, and this was actually developed in tandem with Zippo Games, so it wasn't just Rare.
Oh. Just kind of lending their services a little.
Yep, which you do see still today. Like you see some companies kind of pair up and help each other out.
We got
not too often anymore, but yeah. Next one is Nightmare on Elm Street. This is another LJN game.
Not one you hear come up much, and usually you hear a fair bit about LGN games because they're so bad, and I'm guessing this one's like a boring kind of bad.
Yeah, it probably works, but oh no, based on the scores, yeah, 2 out of 10.
It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Yeah, they did. If it's LGN, it's gonna be probably bad.
Subpar at best. Oh.
Yeah.
Next one's the dumb one. Okay.
Super Glove Ball.
Do you know what Super Glove Ball is?
I feel like you want to talk about it.
I do. Super Glove Ball. If you look at the box art, you'll probably know exactly what this game's gimmick is.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Power Glove.
Yep.
Yeah, it is so in concept, kind of neat. It's basically just Pong. And I think you were supposed to like slap the ball back or something. I don't know. I never owned a Power Glove, and I know the Power Glove like just wasn't it. And this is a game published by Mattel, so you can tell that the Power Glove was much more the toy market than the video game market, obviously. But
yeah,
it doesn't work. That is all I've seen about this game is that it just does not work.
Which is even more, like, the Power Glove was developed by Mattel, right?
I believe developed by Mattel in conjunction with Nintendo, or maybe it was solely Mattel. I think it was an official Nintendo product, though.
I think so,
yeah.
But I think it was made by... I'm actually very curious on that now.
Yeah.
But if the Power Glove was Mattel, and this game was Mattel, and they couldn't get it to work, oh boy.
No.
That's just bad. Next up is going to be a sports game. Arch Rivals, a basket brawl.
Yeah, this is Midway. Midway and Acclaim.
Yes. Midway and Acclaim, yeah.
Okay, so the box art implies that it's basketball with punching. And if it is basketball with punching, it's already my favorite basketball game on the NES, and I've never played it. That just spices it enough. If someone's just going by about to take a shot, you just clock them in the jaw and take the basketball. Like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah, kind of a giant FU. That's my ball.
Other than that, it's I almost said baseball. It's basketball.
So it was actually a port as well.
From what?
An arcade.
Oh, I guess that would be a lot of these. Arcades were very relevant, and also the source of all the drugs. Don't do them, kids.
Yes, absolutely. Next up, we got WWF WrestleMania Challenge by LJN. Now, they did another WWF WrestleMania, I want to say, in 89. That was Acclaim. And neither of these are that good. Actually, in fact, both of them kind of suck.
I'm very inclined to believe that. I did get some fondness out of some LJN wrestling games for the Super Nintendo. I'm not going to say they were good. I just played them a lot. and wrestling games on the NES. I mean, when we covered wrestling for the Black Box, I think that was about as good as it gets.
Yeah, pretty much.
I could be proven wrong. If someone wants to, please leave a comment below or send us an email at optionalboss.pc@gmail.com.
Optionalbosspodcast@gmail.com.
Damn it!
So next up is Digger T Rock, The Legend of the Lost City.
I don't know anything about this game. That's rare.
I have played it.
Really?
Yes.
It kind of looks like Commander Keen meets Little Samson.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. Do I remember much on it, though? No.
Monsters such as moles, mosquitoes, and dragons seek to kill the player character. Yeah. This
was another what do you call it? Platformer.
Looks kind of cool, actually. You can utilize multiple tools such as ladders, shovels, armor, and explosives. It looks so. Metroidvania is such a hard term to use, but a very explorative kind of platformer, you know?
Yes.
That's kind of neat. That's another. There's a few of these that I'm going to have to look into a little bit more in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I doubt that it's going to be on this thing, but hey, Microsoft, we would really like Rare to release Rare Replay, an updated Rare Replay on Nintendo Switch, please.
Or be assholes and give like the Nintendo console exclusive Rare Replay. Then you could get some of these gems like Arch Rivals Basket Brawl. Oh, it's Basket Brawl! Oh, you can definitely punch each other in that.
Yeah.
That took me a little.
Could you imagine if it was Basket Brawl and you couldn't punch each other?
Super Smash Bros. Basket Brawl. I think...
and that was the last one for 90's.
1991. The year of the Super Nintendo. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, we're not there yet, though, so we got a bit more trash to sift through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, starting off, 1991, we have WWF Superstars for the Game Boy by LJN.
Oh.
I don't think it gets any better than that.
They couldn't use color to their advantage. So.
I wonder if they've got a screenshot on here. The box art is fantastic. You just have angry wrestlers from eras bygone. No.
Yep.
No, I can't seem to dig up any screenshots on that. But we also have Beetlejuice for the NES. This is probably one that I feel like would fall under the category of like Fester's Quest. It's not a good game.
That's fair.
But a fun game in the weirdness how it's bad, you know?
You play it because it's bad.
Well, it looks like it's based off of the Beetlejuice cartoon. Oh, is a video game released for MS-DOS in the 1990s. That's not the one I want. Oh, no.
No, there's a few of them.
This is based off the movie. Okay.
Yeah. So, have you actually seen this game?
No.
It is glitchy.
Really?
It is very glitchy.
Well,
like LJN glitchy.
Well,
I mean, I know it's published by LJN, but...
So have you played it or just seen it?
I've played it a little bit, but I've seen more than I played.
Okay. So we can chop this up as a morbid curiosity, not an actual curiosity.
Yes.
I can accept that. Next, though, we have the one that I was talking about earlier, but this is the different title, so originally it was what, Snake, Rattle, and Roll? Yeah. And for Game Boy, it is known as Sneaky Snakes, which is hilarious.
Sneaky Snakes.
Just a snake. I don't know where you learned about that internet meme, but for me it was Pokemon but animals instead. Yeah, classic Newgrounds parody right there. But all the same, see timestamp to... We don't have a timestamp for it, but I already talked about it. Next, though, we have a heavy hitter, and I think what was kind of what Rare was hoping to become their mascot. But actually, maybe not, though, because this was published by Trade West, and I'm pretty sure Trade West still actually owns the copyright to Battletoads, which I was thinking about Battletoads the other day, actually. I think I was listening to just some video game soundtracks on my drive, and a Battletoads from, I think Battletoads and Battlemaniacs is the one for Super Nintendo came on, and I was like, oh, this is a jam. Why didn't I beat that game when I was a kid? Oh, right, because it was brutally difficult.
That's the one with the bikes, isn't it?
I think they all have it. I don't know.
Do they all have the bikes?
I think they all have like an interesting spin on the bike section, yeah. And so the very first Battletoads, I have played it. I have probably only ever got as far as like level 2. Because they lull you into a sense of like, this is a challenging beat 'em up, but it's fun. The animations are great. And then level 2 is just like, okay, we're done giving you any semblance of a chance. So, and the cool thing about Battletoads, and they even did this in Battletoads 1, is there's like 3 different genres or more per game.
Yeah.
Because you'll have...
They certainly like switching it up anyway.
The first level will always be kind of like a standard beat 'em up, and then the second level will be more like just kind of a platforming challenge, and then you'll have like the bike sections, and yeah, Battletoads is something special. However, I've never been able to beat one.
I haven't beat any of them. The only one I've actually played, I think it's Battletoad and Double Dragon. Or maybe it was Battlemaniacs, I don't remember.
Battlemaniacs was Super Nintendo. I think Double Dragon was also there. I don't know. We will have to see, because that was definitely a 90's thing. But next we have High Speed for the NES, and it's pinball again. Good old pinball. But after that, we have... Oh, no way. Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yes.
Yeah. I've never played
must be said, it's a port.
Of course. There's just how many ports of it. And then there's Sid Meier's Gold and...
Yeah.
So much. Actually, platforms.
So this is a port of the Commodore 64 version.
Platforms are Amiga, Amstrad, CPC, Apple II, Apple IIGS, Atari ST, Commodore 64, IBM PC, Macintosh, NES, and PC 88 to 98. Yuck.
Oh, dear.
Yep. But the NES port is the last released version of it. And yeah, I've never played... I think I played Sid Meier's Gold on the Xbox 360. Because it's like a management sim, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how this port would be, but if I had to guess, if you like pirates, here it is on the NES.
And can almost guarantee you it's going to be better than Where's Waldo by Bethesda.
Oh, Where's Waldo by Bethesda is a painful game to play.
Yes.
Next,
it's glitchy, just like their common games. Anyways.
Yeah, so next up for the Game Boy, we have Super RC Pro-Am, and RC Pro-Am...
This is a bit of a notorious one for them. More so the original.
I was going to say,
RC Pro-Am.
On NES, it's kind of like one of the best racing games you can get on the console, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, heralded as.
Yes. There's much love for it. How about that?
This looks like Micro Machines on the Game Boy and less color. This would be, if I had to guess, just a watered down version. And hey, if you like it, you can like it on the Game Boy now as well.
Which a lot of the times that's what the Game Boy ports were of, right?
Yeah.
It was a condensed version of the console version.
It's usually what it was. You'd have the odd original gem on the Game Boy, but moving up next, and I can't get any further information on this other than a title, is Sesame Street ABC 1-2-3 for the NES.
Sounds like you covered the basics.
I think it's gonna show you those. And then after that, we have a return of Battletoads, but on the Game Boy. And is this the Battletoads I have? I don't think so. I think there's like 2 or 3 different Battletoads game on the Game Boy. But
I can believe it.
This is... The original Battletoads got passed around. Like, I think there's a port for pretty much everything that was relevant at the time. So this was very much something that they were pumping out hardcore. But that's not a bad way to close out 1991.
No, that's much stronger than the 90.
With Digger T Rock.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 1992, we got Beetlejuice for the Game Boy, LJN again, and this one I don't know anything about. But if the NES version wasn't good,
I feel like I would like this more just because of my fondness for the Game Boy. That's where I sit on this. Yeah, it would have charm and how bad. Like I love the Simpsons game for Game Boy. None of them are good. Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Another platform game, published by Acclaim. It is Wizards and Warriors 3, Kuros, Visions of Power. Again, the only one I've actually played a little bit of is the original Wizards and Warriors. So.
Oh, this looks just like Wizards and Warriors again.
Yes.
Oh, so it's probably decent at best. Like
I could believe that.
He's still doing his very pointy jumps. Yeah.
So 92 was actually a pretty short year, but
they get shorter
a lot of
as
racing
we go.
games. 93 says different.
Wow.
But this next one, which is an arcade port again, for the NES, is Danny Sullivan's Indie Heat. And this was Trade West as well.
Oh, that's an arcade
racing
screenshot.
Game. Yeah.
I was going to say, that looks really good. How is this on the NES? Oh, wait, it's not.
That's why. And then we got RC Pro-Am 2. I'll be honest, I didn't realize that there was a second one.
I was just going to say, yeah, for how beloved RC Pro-Am seems to be, you don't think I've ever seen this come up, so I'm guessing it probably doesn't have that same magic. Although, again, 1992, no one's really buying NES games anymore, right? We still haven't...
No, they're looking at the next in place Super Nintendo.
Yeah, they don't actually get into the Super Nintendo until 93, wow.
Yep.
Dark days.
Next up is another Pro-Am game, Championship of Pro-Am for the Mega Drive. So now they're touching other things.
Ooh, okay.
Not just Game Boy and NES and PCs.
For our listeners who may not be aware, the Mega Drive is also known as the Sega Genesis.
Yes. I guess Mega Drive because they are a European company.
Yep. I have a friend in England who always gives me a hard time when I call it the Genesis.
That's what we know it as.
Yep.
Sorry, friend in England. You are wrong where I am.
I'm not. I'm fine to debate with him.
So yeah, Champion Pro-Am for Mega Drive. Next up is Battletoads for the Amiga. Was the Amiga called anything else?
I think I only know it as the Amiga.
It's Commodore's entry into the consoles.
Yeah. Which still just looks like a PC.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. But it's almost like every year for Christmas they decide to give Battletoads again. I don't know if this came out around Christmas, but at the same time, that's 2 years in a row they've closed it out with Battletoads. But could have changed the formula for 93 because first game of the year is Battletoads. But this time for the Mega Drive, Sega Genesis, and I have played this one. It's gonna come down to preference if you prefer to play on an NES or a Genesis, because they feel very similar. Genesis is going to look a little bit better, obviously. Well, debatably, there is preferences to be had there. You're going to have the different music as well. But it's still Battletoads 1. It's still clearly doing something that works. But then we have Battletoads: A Double Dragon on the NES. And that's just... It's just Battletoads again. It's a different game entirely. You have different settings and bosses and all that, but it still kind of follows that, different genre per level structure. And this time, Jimmy and Bimmy from Double Dragon have showed up.
Stupid Bimmy.
And now here's the heavy hitter. And I've already mentioned it, but 1993 was the year of Battletoads, but we have Battletoads in Battle Maniacs for the Super Nintendo. And as I've said, I had this as a kid and just bang my head against the wall difficulty, and I tried it so many times and I could never get past it. I would do the first level and you fight these skeletons and I think these big pig monsters, and you think, okay, I'm doing pretty good. And then the second level would just always demolish me to the point of game over. Didn't stand a chance. I think I got to the hyperbike section once, and even then it's you got this far, you're not getting any further, kid.
Yeah.
But
it's the bikes. Good luck.
And this is going back to what I was saying earlier about how Rare would pick a genre and then just absolutely master it. And difficulty aside, Battletoads is a fantastic game. It's very well made all around. Difficult, incredibly difficult, but anyway, moving on from Battletoads, we have, what do you know? It's Battletoads again. And this might be the one I have. Battletoads in Ragnarok's World, it seems to be called, and it is definitely one in my Game Boy collection that I have not played. So I can't speak to that, but I can say it's probably just another quality Battletoads game on the Game Boy.
They seem to really like the Battletoads in 93.
Oh, they're not done yet, because we have not once, not twice, but thrice Battletoads and Double Dragon again. But now releasing on the Mega Drive, the Super Nintendo, and the Game Boy. So,
Jesus Christ.
Wow, 4 ports of the same game in 1 year. Like, they were busy.
Yep.
And finally, to round it out, we have Battletoads on the Game Gear. We're not getting Battletoads for Christmas this year. We got way too much earlier.
You know what? They always say that they pumped out way too many Mega Man games.
That's all they did in 93.
93, they pumped out 8 Battletoads games.
Oh my god. It's the 30th anniversary of the triple pack of Battletoads. Okay, because there is at least 3 different titles. Actually, 4. Technically, 4 different Battletoads games released in 1993. Now, the original Battletoads had already been out, but just came out of nowhere. What do you think's next? Surprisingly, it's not Battletoads.
So, the next one is a bit weird, because I don't know of any other one that they did. Although, okay. I could think of one, but it'll be probably on this list.
I mean, I'm not too worried about
what
arcade
what
games.
What it came out for.
But something called X the Ball, and apparently was in association with Capcom, and it says sports. So, can't say. But their last game of the year, I feel like they were just like, let's just do something. And it's Snake, Rattle, and Roll again, but not...
Probably just in time for Christmas.
Not by its more enjoyable title of Sneaky Snake. And... yeah, that one's
Snake.
Mega Drive, Genesis, so now everyone on every format can play some Snake, Rattle, and Roll. That will put an end,
if they so choose,
to the Battletoads.
Unless you have an Amiga.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. You can't hack that yet. All right, now that we've done with the year of Battletoads, Josh, what does 94 have in store for us?
So 1994, we got Battletoads Arcade.
Now, I think this is actually another original product. I've actually seen like gameplay of this, and like it's a beautiful game.
Well, yeah, it's arcades.
It's also...
I don't know what it was. I mean, they were much bigger, but arcades always looked so much better.
It's unbelievably gory.
Really?
Yeah, like they rip enemies in half and there's blood all the time. Like they did what they could not do on Nintendo. Like you think Genesis does? No, arcade does what Nintendo never gonna.
That doesn't surprise me, though.
Yep.
So, Battletoads Arcade. Yep. Published by Electronic Arts. That's kind of sad. Next up is Battletoads for the Amiga CD32.
There. They got their Battletoads.
Yes. Yeah. They had to wait.
Yeah. Oh.
So, Battletoads in Battle Maniacs for the Master System.
I didn't know that actually came out on the Genesis. Wait. Master System.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my. Okay, so here's one for our listeners who might not know. The Sega Master System is the not very well known, basically NES of the Sega brand. They're strictly 8-bit console.
8-bit system, right?
Yes, and still popular in Brazil to this day.
Yes, which is bizarre but cool.
It is a very interesting thing, but. You're finally out of the dark age. You got a good one.
Yes. So, 94 was also the year that Nintendo bought 49% of the company. And they essentially became a second-party publisher for Nintendo in general. Granted, a lot of their stuff was Nintendo anyways.
Yep.
but then they saw they did Battletoads for Amiga and said, okay, enough's enough. So they were actually working on some graphic technology, and they came out with Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. And again, this is going back to, like, this is the era of Rare that people reflect on. None of that stuff that we talked, I mean, Battletoads, different story, but which one? None of the stuff that we've talked about previously is really what Rare is known for.
Yeah.
It is here on out that people know Rare games. So Donkey Kong Country, everyone knows Donkey Kong Country. I think at this point, Super Nintendo used the 3D graphics, but not 3D graphics for sprite work. And yeah, platformer, Donkey, Diddy.
Well, and it is, again, Rare just taking the genre and absolutely perfecting it. I have played Donkey Kong Country 1 so many times, to the point where I don't like it anymore because I've played it so much, and yet...
It's not even a don't like, it's just you'll appreciate it from afar.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I'm not about to say I actively dislike it, but the thought of playing it kind of... same kind of feeling I get when I think about Super Mario World. Like, I love it to death, but it's hard to actually sit down and play it because I've done it so many times. And, Donkey Kong Country is not only graphically, but the gameplay is so solid. And...
Absolutely. The music is on point.
And I want to say this is the first example of them using their Rare logo at the intro of a game.
Yes, this is when they kind of really wanted to be started on. And in case no one's actually noticed, it's toilet paper.
Is it? Oh my god.
Their logo?
It is.
It is.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wild. I'm never going to look at it the same now. Jeez.
No. They've always had that humor that they've had with arguably the last good Conker game.
The Great Mighty Pooh.
Yes.
Yes.
They always had that humor. The Stamper Brothers.
Yes.
So last one for 94, another banger, but this one is on arcade and with Midway. It's Killer Instinct.
It's a banger that hadn't got a chance to bang yet, but we can discuss more about that in 1995.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 1995. Some of these that aren't really well known, we won't spend too much time on. Just we are getting tight on time.
I will comment on my perplexity, but beyond that, I don't think, not much to elaborate on. So the first game of the year is Monster Max, and from what I can see at the box art, it's like someone took the Tasmanian Devil and they were like, yeah, but let's make him edgier. Give him a mohawk and a guitar. And
I was going to say, take Tasmanian Devil, make him look a little more robotic, give him a guitar, and pretend he's a Mega Man boss.
Ah, yes, there is a Mega Man boss that looks exactly like that, actually. His name is Punk.
Yep.
He is locked on the Game Boy. But from the gameplay, it's an isometric game, which intrigues me. It's also by Titus, which I think Titus was a pretty big name. Well, not big, but like acclaim level big over in Europe.
Okay.
I think. I could be very wrong.
They're a French software publisher, so...
that would do it. They are long defunct now. Now...
I think so, yeah.
This next one, actually, this is a good year. It's a very short year for Rare. But the next one is Donkey Kong Land for the Game Boy. And...
Okay, so... Before we get into this, first off, we mentioned before the Donkey Kong games. Some of them tend to have yellow cartridges.
Yes.
Yeah, bananas.
Bananas.
Yeah. But the lane games get a lot of shit. I don't care. I still enjoy them.
So this is actually to go back to what I said about like the detail in games being a detriment. And so I got 2 games with my Game Boy in my origin of becoming a gamer. One was Kirby's Dream Land, and one was Donkey Kong Land 1. And I did really like Donkey Kong Land. Boy, my biggest trouble was knowing what the heck was on the screen. Like, it didn't matter how I changed the saturation and the contrast on the Game Boy. I just was stumbling my way through to playing that game. And I liked it, but it was so hard to see. And that's why it's, like, not one I look back on too fondly. That said, it would be so cool if this trilogy ended up on the Switch Online, because now they have original Game Boy. Because they are solid platformers. And they're
Absolutely.
very it's very similar to how the Super Mario Land games are Mario games at their core, sure, but they're still very different and they have a lot of different unique features to offer. I think Donkey Kong Land was doing a sort of currency before Donkey Kong Country 2 came out.
Yep.
So it gets a lot of flack for
clearly the ideas were being passed around.
Yeah, and I'll give it flack for its visuals because like they tried to go for the hyper detail, and don't get me wrong, they pulled it off, but it made the game a little bit less accessible in my mind. It looks too good to look good on the Game Boy. They tried too hard, but
So, what game did you play first? Donkey Kong Land or Donkey Kong Country?
I want to say Land actually. Because I'm pretty sure I got my Game Boy before we had a Super Nintendo.
So I played Country first, and I remember when Land was out, and obviously being a younger kid, it was Donkey Kong. Yay, I know Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I always thought, they tried to do the Super Nintendo one on Game Boy. That's cool.
No.
And even though the levels and everything were different, it's like I still thought that for some reason until I got older, of course, and then it's like, that's a dumb comparison, but I mean...
No,
clearly I remember my stupid.
it's a completely unique game, and if I'm not mistaken, the plot is actually, it picks up right at the end of Donkey Kong Country, and it's Cranky Kong being like, yeah, but you couldn't do that adventure on the old hardware we had when I was a young lad, and he challenges him to a game on the Game Boy.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but that feels familiar with me.
That does sound familiar, yeah.
Yeah, and then after Donkey Kong Land, we have this. I need this music for this episode because Killer Instinct is the most metal shit on the Super Nintendo. Oh my god! And
I'm gonna say this: picking the music for this episode is gonna be so hard.
Right? We have because Donkey Kong's got also some really cool. Anyway. Yeah, Killer Instinct. It is, a brand new IP in the world of fighting games. We did mention it was in arcades, but it went for that similar visual style and just what they did with Donkey Kong Country, they decided to do with a fighting game. And fighting games, there was, Street Fighter 2 would have been the king at the time, and it was traditional sprites. And then you have Mortal Kombat, which used digitized sprites, where they actually took pictures of real people. And Rare just comes out of the gate and goes, we're just going to do our 3D, not 3D magic and make probably the best looking fighting game on the console and make it one of the best playing fighting games on the console. It is so much fun if you're into them. And I spent hours on Killer Instinct when I was a kid.
I don't think to this day I have played Killer Instinct. On any form.
My nostalgia
maybe I did.
Is very strong for Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo. And if I had a way to play it, I probably still would. But beyond that, this 95 just keeps hitting harder and harder. And then we have Donkey Kong Country 2. For everyone who's got it wrong their entire life, it's Diddy's Kong Quest, not Diddy Kong's Quest. That was a Mandela effect for a lot of people I know. But
yes.
I haven't...
Well, it doesn't come out as smooth.
So I have beaten the entire Donkey Kong Country trilogy, but...
Yep.
This one, 2 and 3.
So 101, 102, 103?
I don't think I 102'd Donkey Kong Country 2 because this game is not easy.
It is difficult.
And they took...
In a good way.
They took the sequel seriously, as in a sequel was meant for people who had played the previous game and wanted more and more challenge, kind of like what they did with Mario and the Lost Levels. Much better. Clearly, because Mario and the Lost Levels is just Mario 1 again, but hard, and this is an entirely different game. But it takes the player seriously, and that's like, okay, you've done Donkey Kong Country 1, here's a refresher, and now we're going to throw you to the wolves. And I think that's why it is regarded as one of the greatest games, because it's willing to take its challenge seriously. Still be a solid game that plays incredibly well.
You know what is sad?
That I don't like it as much?
That is sad.
Yeah.
The sheer fact that we never got Dixie Kong for Smash.
It is sad. Now that you mention it, she would have fit in perfectly, but we did
She would have.
We did get King K. Rool, and honestly, between the two, that is my choice. I love King K. Rool. I love...
Okay, but remove a Fire Emblem character, put in Dixie Kong.
Yeah, and put Dr. Wily in there while you're at it, you cowards.
Oh god, that would be fun.
He could have just been a clone of Mario or Bowser Jr., and I think it would have worked out fine.
Just go around and almost like Kirby, and just except they make robot versions of each enemy or each character.
That would be cool. Or just this little,
like turn each one into a robot master,
or just those little skull things from the Mega Man 7 boss. But sidetracks. Yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2, pinnacle of gaming. Even though it's not one of my favorites, I can very much acknowledge how good it was. And then we circle back around to, and I do own this, and it is trash, but Killer Instinct on the Game Boy. And it's not that it's trash because it's bad, it's just a fighting game on the Game Boy, and those never go well.
Yes, absolutely.
They tried. It's still Killer Instinct at its core, but that's a wrap on 1995, and what a year.
Very good year.
Short and sweet.
96, not as good, but still pretty good. So 96, we got Killer Instincts 2, the arcade cabinet. Again, sponsored by Midway, or published by Midway.
I wish I could. That's weird, actually, that Midway would be putting it out, because if I'm not mistaken, Midway is the Mortal Kombat guy. Although they were just kind of arcades in general at the time, right?
Very much so, yeah.
That makes sense.
Don't know much on the arcade stuff, so just moving on. This one I don't know too much on. Sports games, we've gone over this, guys. Ken Griffey Jr.'s Winning Run.
So what I find peculiar about this, because I have heard of, I think it's just Ken Griffey Jr.'s baseball on Super Nintendo, and it's like one of the ones that come up. Like if anyone's watched his SNES Drunk, they'll hear him claim that like that's one of the best baseball games on Super Nintendo. And then there's just another Ken Griffey Jr. game made by a completely different company, and that's really all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's more than I had, so we're good.
Yeah.
Next is Donkey Kong Land 2. So this one did the same as Diddy's Kong Quest, where they had DK as the kidnappee, and it's Dixie and Diddy Kong that you play as.
I think this was more in line with Donkey Kong Country 2 than Donkey Kong Land 1 was with Donkey Kong Country, but it is still its own unique thing. I have only played Land 1, though.
Really?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I can't speak to the quality of it, but I can only imagine they just get better. This one probably is also hindered by the graphics, but I think they did go... Because the problem with the first Donkey Kong Land is a lot of the graphics, they looked really dark on the Game Boy. And so I think, even with the limited color palette, they used a lot more like lighter grays and stuff. And it was a lot easier to see what was happening in this one. Still, a little too quality to be like, actually see things clearly, but it was a little bit easier on the eyes.
It's something that would have been easier to see if it was on a TV.
Yes.
Just because of how much they use the black spots on the screen versus the light spots and how they used it to represent details. Next up is Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble.
What do you think about this Donkey Kong?
I don't give a shit. I love it.
I was just going to say, this is actually, I think, my favorite in the trilogy.
Yeah, and it kind of goes with the dynamic that the second one should have. Second one, you have first game, you have one agile character and one heavyset character. Number 2, you have 2 agile characters. And then number 3, you get 1 agile and 1 heavyset.
Like, don't get me wrong.
Kiddy Kong's dumb. Don't get me wrong.
No, I don't like Kiddy Kong at all, but I do think that the heavy-light dynamic actually just makes the game significantly better. And
I love Dixie Kong, so we're good in that front.
And the fact that this is 1996, like, you are getting into the last year of Super Nintendo releases here, and... Yes. Whoever's still making stuff on that hardware is making quality stuff. And I remember being blown away about like how in this game, once you get to the water, you can kind of like actually explore the world map and stuff. And there was like side quests, and some of them are tedious as hell, but at the same time, it was still really cool. And then you also have the collectible DK coins and the secret ending and bosses.
The banana burns.
Yeah. So I think Donkey Kong Country 3 is... It gets a lot of shit, surprisingly. And I don't think it deserves that. I still think it is top-notch and my personal favorite of the trilogy. Not the one I played the most. That goes to Country 1, but that's because that's what I owned as a kid, right?
Yes. So. I played 2 more than any of them, but 3 I'd say is my favorite.
It's a good time. It's a very good time.
Yeah. Don't care for... Shit, what was his name? The baby.
Kiddy Kong.
Kiddy Kong.
Yes.
Didn't care for Kiddy Kong.
Yeah.
Still, I enjoyed the overworld a lot more. I enjoyed doing some side quests, like you could take a break from the platforming, and the platforming was pretty solid.
I'd say it needs a new re-release, even possibly with a new enhanced funky mode, but that's not legally possible right now, so.
And the last one for 96 is Killer Instinct Gold for the N64.
Yeah, we're there now. And
we made it.
I played this a little bit. I think Killer Instinct Gold it's not Mortal Kombat, or not Mortal Kombat. It's very much not Mortal Kombat.
It is not Mortal Kombat.
It's not Killer Instinct 2, but it takes a lot from Killer Instinct 2. And
okay.
I played a little bit on the N64, so I can't speak to it much, but it was still quality. But fighting games on the N64, not as weird as being on the Game Boy, but still strange. One that, if it came to the N64 online, though, I would definitely check out. I mean, we got GoldenEye. Come on, give me Killer Instinct. I deserve that.
Keep that train going.
Yeah, but
and Banjo Kazooie.
Oh, it's not here. It is. Oh,
I don't think.
No, it's not in our roster.
No. So 97. What do you got?
So this first one is a game that I've not played, and it seems intriguing.
You've seen everywhere, though.
Yeah, it's called Blast Corps, and it's such a weird premise. Is you're basically guarding a truck that is slowly driving along with a nuke on it, and you have to destroy everything in its path and stop it from being blown up by things. And
you can get a bulldozer.
You can get a bulldozer, you get like a giant mech, and you get a bunch of different vehicles. And I've never played it, but I would play it if I had a way to. That would be the best way I could describe my thoughts on Blast Corps.
That's fair enough.
Do you want to tear into this next one? I'll give the floor to you for this one, because I've already...
No, you're good. The movie was good. I enjoyed the movie.
This is the part where we get a little bit of hate from our audience, possibly. I don't know. We've talked to some people. They seem to side with us on this. GoldenEye 007, one of the absolute legends in the first-person shooter genre, revolutionized gameplay for, I don't know, at least 3 years. Then the world of shooters started to change, and they were doing completely different things on PC.
They paved the way.
Now, you've played through, you played a lot of its campaign, right?
I've beat the campaign on the hardest difficulty. I've unlocked every secret, and multiple times, mind you. Because I've had my save file corrupted a few times. Not taking out, not turning it off properly, whatnot. I've played the living shit out of this.
Yeah,
it has not aged well by today's standards. Control-wise.
I played it a fair bit, but it was definitely one of those only ever multiplayer when I'd go somewhere to someone's house who had it. And I had my fun, for sure. But I don't have a lot of nostalgia for this one.
Oh, I got lots, and I still haven't played on N64 online, because I'm afraid. Now, with that said, I will say that it was this game that got me to watch proper movies. So this is what got me into watching GoldenEye, not cartoon movies. How about that?
I take offense to that, as I watched on nothing but cartoons still. But yes, I get what you mean.
Yes. So, I mean, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I'm afraid to touch it now because I don't want to lose what the nostalgia brings for me.
Well, should we move away from that nostalgia?
This has nostalgia too.
Does it? Have you played Donkey Kong Land 3?
I have.
Oh, well.
Yes. So here's the thing. Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3. Donkey Kong Land 1, 2, and 3. And what we will get to, DK64, I have 100%ed all of them.
Damn, dedicated.
you don't understand how much of a Donkey Kong lover I was.
You really don't. Certainly hasn't come up much, that's for sure. Now,
No.
I've mentioned, have not played this one, but I want to order a Japanese copy of it because there was a Japanese remake of this game for the Game Boy Color.
Okay.
And it has updated graphics, and it plays nicer, and it is still the same game, but on a color screen. And everything's much more detailed and vibrant. So it's kind of like if you've ever seen like the DX hacks for Super Mario Land or even Link's Awakening DX. It basically got that treatment, but even more power behind it because it wasn't a black card. It was actually one of the clear, specific for Game Boy Color cards.
Like an actual color.
Yes. So that's my fact about Donkey Kong Land 3.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah, but to finalize the year, we have another one that I haven't played but has a lot of fondness for a lot of its fans, and that's Diddy Kong Racing on the N64.
So this is where I'm going to tear people up. So if you agreed with me with GoldenEye and not Tyler, this might change your mind. This is better than Mario Kart 64.
See, I can't actually speak to that because I haven't really played it. But I have played a lot of Mario Kart 64.
Diddy Kong Racing, it's... I love it. For a kart racer, I love it. Again, running off nostalgia, but like... I don't even know where to begin. The fact that it has story mode, yes, I unlocked TT, the clock. Thing is OP.
There's a clock?
Yeah, there's another character that you can unlock if you beat all the time trials and collect every balloon and do everything there is in the game. And it's TT.
Speaking of characters, this was the debut of two other characters. Isn't Banjo in this?
Yes.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yes. Banjo was in
Canonically part of the Donkey Kong
Kazooie,
universe. No Kazooie. It's just Bear and biplane.
Yes.
Not bird. Strangely enough, though, that later on the Game Boy Advance, there would be a Banjo Kazooie based racing game for flying.
Yes.
Not good.
No.
That's dark.
I've heard pretty bad things about it.
That's Dark Days stuff, though. We're not covering that.
No. Happiness. Diddy Kong Racing. The story mode's fantastic. You follow this bear and you gotta get rid of this big bully, so you got 8 of you team up and try and beat him on the race, and then there's like boss races that you have after you do so many like objectives within certain areas and worlds.
That is pretty cool.
So you gotta try and collect things, you gotta try and do time trials and whatnot to reach certain achievements and stuff. And then you have to race the boss and then beat the boss. And it's power pickups, so we're going a little in depth for this one. The power pickups are kind of neat too, because you got different colors. So like, I forget what exactly there are.
I think it's a red, green, and blue balloon. Yeah.
And there's a white, I think. I forget what they all do, but like, say the rocket, you could shoot out one normal rocket. You could hit another same color of that, where you got the rocket from. So say it was red for attack, say. You hit another red, and then it's a homing missile. And then you get another red, and then it's its ultimate form, which is like a homing barrage.
Oh, that's cool. You know what other game actually did that? Lego Racing.
Lego.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Ahead of its time.
Unless it's Lego Racing I'm thinking of. I'm pretty sure this does it too.
The balloons sound familiar, so I can't question you on that. Yeah. But I do know that Diddy Kong Racing is very beloved for the fact that it had 3 different vehicles. Wasn't it planes, cars, and boats? Or hovercrafts or something?
The hovercrafts. Yeah. The hovercrafts suck.
Still.
I will fully admit, but
gives you
variety. The planes weren't too bad.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was 97. 97 was a pretty good year. Not much smaller, but not as small as 98 was.
This is the definition of quality, not quantity.
Banjo Kazooie is a good game.
Oh, is it ever a good game?
So Banjo Kazooie for the N64. You've played it. I've played it. I've completed it.
I'm gonna say it. This makes Mario 64 look like crap.
Yes, absolutely.
And Mario 64 is not crap. So that should say how good of a game this is. It's still fun today.
It's like Rare said looked at Super Mario 64 and said, wow, we can do that.
Oh, it's like
and then they made this, and they're like, sorry, Nintendo, we showed you up.
It's like I said, every genre that they end up stepping into, they just come with the master class gold standard of it.
Yes.
Don't know how. And Banjo Kazooie is a game that I haven't spent a great deal of time in, but I've definitely beaten at least 2 or 3 times in my life. And
yep,
it's just so good. I don't know why. I think maybe just, the combat feels better. It's the right amount of
cheerful and quirkiness.
Yeah.
And it feels good to play.
And it still has that classic, like, absurd Rareware kind of humor. And yeah, no, it's Banjo Kazooie is an absolute delight.
The only thing I don't really care about, and it's not even a big deal, to be honest, but it's the spoilers don't matter here, right?
I don't think so.
The game show section at the end, it's fine until you get the questions for Gruntilda.
Yep. The thing you were ignoring the whole game.
Yes, the fairy god, or the sister.
Yep.
The nice witch. Telling you all these different things, and it's like, I don't have to remember this, right?
No.
I don't want to remember what kind of panties Gruntilda wears.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you just think, oh, it's just quirky dialogue for the sake of quirky dialogue. Nope, it's actually very important.
No, you're quizzed on it at the end.
Yeah.
And after you complete that quiz section, you save Tui, your sister, and credits roll. And you think you're done, but you're not actually done because you still have a fight against Gruntilda.
So, I don't remember, but did they do the same thing that they did in Donkey Kong Country where they give you the fake credits?
No.
Oh.
They give you real credits. You exit Gruntilda's lair and you go back, and then it's you and Kazooie hanging out on the beach when you reload your save file. Because it brings you back to the main menu.
Oh, right.
So you load up your save file, and it's a cutscene where you and Kazooie are on the beach tanning, and Tui's like, what are you guys doing? Gruntilda's still out there.
Oh, no.
And I know there's lots of people who missed out on that because they didn't realize.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, to actually beat the game, you also have to go around and collect all the Jinjos, don't you?
Yes.
Ah, yes, to summon the Jinjonator.
Yes, absolutely.
But, what a legendary game.
98, fantastic year. You play as a bear and a bird duo who get into little one-liners against a mole, and the whole idea is a witch stole your sister so she could become hot.
I will take 1 Banjo Kazooie in 1 year, then 5 Battletoads in another.
Yes.
Any day.
Agreed.
So,
99.
On to the twilight year of the Rareware. And they did still have some great titles, but to close out the 1990s, the reason we are here today, we have at first an interesting scenario for the most crude character in gaming from his era. We have Conkers Pocket Tales. And,
well, this is before a cat tried to use him as a table stand.
I love how the plot is so dumb. Oh my god. Yeah, I can't remember what the plot is for Conkers Pocket Tales. So I own it, and I played it a little bit. I didn't get far, but it didn't seem...
He's just so happy.
He's so happy.
He's so happy. I think
the game starts out with like a birthday party, and like you have to get like stuff for a cake. I can't remember, but it's very like friendly and innocent. But here's the...
Yeah, he retrieves his stolen birthday presents and rescues his girlfriend, Barry.
Yes, right. And so the interesting thing about Conkers Pocket Tales, there are a very small amount of games on the Game Boy Color that do this. So it's a black cartridge. And for those who are unaware, the black Game Boy cartridges can be played in an original Game Boy or a Game Boy Color. However, the difference here is they're actually 2 different games. Slightly. But if you play it on an original Game Boy compared to a Game Boy Color, there are actually different things in the game.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very weird kind of dual-layered cartridge. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. It's still more or less the same game, but the fact that there are differences at all outside of color is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's very different.
Aside from that, though, it seems like a very subpar isometric platformer on the Game Boy, which, I'll give it a proper go one day.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And then we have Jet Force Gemini, which is another game that I haven't played, but it's, for its fans, a very beloved third-person shooter. And there wasn't much of these at the time.
I was going to say, a lot of people really like this game.
Yeah, but I know it's one of those games that, mostly due to the hardware it's on, it's hard to attract new fans because it just hurts to go back and play. It hasn't aged the best. The N64, we've said it before, hasn't aged the greatest. I'm sure Banjo Kazooie might be one of the ones we are most highly praising of for that.
Yes.
I think you go around shooting bugs. I'm pretty sure that's Jet Force Gemini.
So I actually have this game, but I have not played it.
Should give it a go one day, see what it's all about.
I should.
Then we have...
This next one I played a lot.
Controversial. I don't like this game at all. And this is Donkey Kong 64. And
so a lot of people don't like this game.
It does so many things right and so many more things wrong. Oh my god.
So I think the biggest dropping point for this is how many collectibles there are.
It's because there's character-specific collectibles, and the fact that you can see them while you are other characters and can't get them, and you have to go. And there's 6 different collectibles per character, and there's just so many, and I don't care.
It is very chore-inducing.
Oh my god!
So I have completed this game.
I have,
and I think you get, I forget what exactly you get from it. I want to say 101 bananas or 110 or something like that. It's not 104, I don't think.
I do not like this game. I have never beaten this game, and yet I don't know how. I have 3 copies of this game. They just ended up in my possession. I have never once purchased it. I don't know why I have these.
Yeah, that's confusing.
Isn't it?
I don't know.
Do you have any more praise for Donkey Kong 64? Controversy? Curses?
If you play it now, I would highly suggest not to do Collectathon.
I would just...
You still need bananas and stuff for the hippos to open the doors, but get the bare minimum if you need to, but don't bother doing a collectathon 100%.
Turn it on.
So it's 201 bananas.
Yeah. Turn it on. Listen to the DK rap. Take it out of the N64. Don't even turn off the N64. Just rip the cartridge out and throw it in the fire.
Praise Grant Kirkhope.
Oh, Grant Kirkhope. All right.
Unlike the Super Mario movie did for the DK rap.
Oh, no.
That's sad.
The last game of the decade of the millennium for Rare is Mickey's Racing Adventure, which I've never played, but is apparently really, really good.
In the Game Boy Color.
Wait, this is the Game Boy Color one? Oh,
yeah.
This is the Game Boy Color. Oh, okay. I was thinking of Mickey's International Speedway.
Yes.
For the N64. No, this is...
That one isn't bad. This one I don't know.
This one's probably okay at best. It's a racer on the Game Boy. I don't know. This is compared to even though I had some harsh things to say about Donkey Kong 64, kind of hard to follow that up, especially if it's a Game Boy Color racing game.
Yeah.
And with that's Rare in the 90s.
I am going to touch on 2000 just because there's a few important ones that came out on 2000.
All right.
This first one I don't actually know anything about. Donkey Kong GB, Dinky Kong, and Dixie Kong.
Oh.
Game Boy Color.
Wait. Dinky Kong and Dixie Kong? Is this... this is the Game Boy Color remake.
Oh.
Yeah.
So was it Kitty Kong or was it Dinky Kong?
It might have been Dinky Kong. I don't know. I'm questioning everything now.
So am I. This is another Diddy's Kong quest.
Yeah.
Situation, the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that. Perfect Dark.
Never get into this one. I think it's because of the same thing with GoldenEye 64. It's because mission structure shooters. It's I would shoot the wrong person. It would tell me I failed. I'm like, well, I don't want to do it if I can't shoot everybody.
That's so morbid.
I know.
I love Perfect Dark. This is another one I 100% completed because that's what I did back in the day, apparently. And then played a bit of the multiplayer as well. Not nearly as much as GoldenEye, but you can rescue an alien called Elvis.
And now this is like kind of their mascot. It says they don't really have much more mascots these days. And they don't even use it.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Same year, there was Perfect Dark for Game Boy Color, which came with a built-in Rumble Pack.
Yes. I don't remember why.
Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color.
I have it. It's bad. It's really bad.
Is it bad?
It's really bad. It is the worst way to play.
Sad.
Like, it is the Super Nintendo version. Like, it is 100% Donkey Kong Country with no compromises, and that in itself
is a crunch to shit.
Oh, there's a lot it can't really do, and it looks really bad. And it's yeah.
That's too bad.
And the even weirder thing is it uses the same kind of menu style. It's like it took a lot of like elements of Donkey Kong 64 and just threw them in for no reason, like the ring menu and kind of stuff like that.
Oh,
really?
It's
a weird game.
So this is the one that you were thinking of, Mickey Speedway USA.
Yes, I don't know it, but this is another contender
for
the
N64.
Better than Mario Kart for the N64.
Nah, because that's already that trophy's already given.
But I have heard it brought up in discussion. Yes.
And last but not least, Banjo Tooie, the sequel to Banjo Kazooie.
I wish I had as many fun things to say about it. I don't dislike it, but for some reason I cannot like it nearly as much.
No, Banjo Kazooie just leaves a special place. I need to replay Banjo Tooie to actually have a full grasp, and I think it's because I've spent more time with Banjo Kazooie.
I think that, as well as Banjo Tooie, suffered from feature bloat.
I could believe that.
Yeah, because they added like a lot of first person, like there was temples that were entire first person shooter sections, and then they really, really went hard on the whole like you go to Mumbo Jumbo and get like new forms for the level and stuff. So,
yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Too much of a good thing, you know?
All right, and I'm going to mention this even though it's 2001. Conkers Bad Fur Day.
Yeah. Have you played it?
I've played a little bit of it. I haven't actually done like a full playthrough or not. Plays kind of like a Banjo Kazooie or a Banjo Tooie.
I've beaten it. I played it when I was a kid, as much as I shouldn't have. And first of all, I learned about the flowers and the bees, and if you know, you know, and oh dear. And then beyond that, I mean, you know, everyone knows about the Great Mighty Pooh. But the thing that I think a lot of people forget about it is how referential that game was, and the fact that I think like the last level is just nothing but a parody of The Matrix.
I can believe that. Yeah,
it was very much that kind of humor at the time. It's a good game, but it's not like it plays nearly as nicely as something like Banjo Kazooie or anything like that.
No. It's a fine game. It's a bit of a novelty.
It's a quality novelty, but yeah, I would also agree. Its novelty is in its vulgarity and absurdity, right? Although I will say the multiplayer mode where it was like the squirrels versus the teddies. Oh, I played the shit out of it. It was so good.
I honestly didn't even know it had a multiplayer mode.
Multiplayer mode is incredible, and that was the one thing that I was looking forward to a lot out of what do they call it? Conkers Bad Fur Day Reloaded or something. The one that they made for...
Oh, Live and Reloaded.
Yeah, that was for original Xbox, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I tried it out. And so the gimmick with the original one is if you were the squirrels or the teddies, it didn't matter. And there was just a whole bunch of weapons. And I think for the most part, everything was like one-hit kill. And it was just how it worked. As where they changed it in the remake, instead of having weapons that you could just find all over the map, you would just pick a set character class. So it would be like either the ninja or the sniper or something. And it ruined a lot of... Oh, no, hitting stuff. Ruined a lot of the charm. And... yeah, just phoned it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's Rare's kind of golden years, if you will.
Well, before...
Plus and minus some.
Before we close this out, I will say, if you had to pick a game from here that you have not played, what do you think you were intrigued to check out?
That I have not played?
Yeah.
Gonna sound kind of weird, but Jet Force Gemini.
See, for me, it was Time Lord.
Time Lord 2, yeah, fuck, that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm very interested by the old school NES platformers that have slipped my grasp, whether they're good or bad. It's like stuff like
it caught my attention because the box art.
The box arts too, but I also really enjoy those very abstract platformers. Like, have you ever heard of something called Kabuki Quantum Fighter?
No.
Well, it's a solid platformer on the NES, but you don't know unless you dig.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think with that, I've gotten to the end of my rope on this one. How about yourself?
I think so too. So everyone, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It's another list-based episode. I know some people really enjoy these ones. Some people maybe not so much, but thank you for listening regardless. And if you want to leave us a review, we're supposed to be asking for them. Hopefully it's a good review. Just leave that on your podcasting service of choice. And if you want to email us any questions, comments, concerns, or want to be read out on the show, you can email us over at optionalbosspodcast@gmail.com, or you can catch us on Twitter or Instagram at optionalbosspc. And that is all for me. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.